Well, listen, it's impossible to censor the internet, although Philippe Dufresne and Jennifer Lynch are trying. So they're just beating up whoever they can. For example, they prosecuted a Catholic priest in Toronto named Father Alphonse de Valk, made him spend $20,000 simply because he took the Vatican's position on gay marriage. They prosecuted the Christian Heritage Party because they offended someone's feelings. They investigated a pastor in Red Deer named Stephen Bazan because he wrote something about gay marriage. I just listed 3 examples where it was regular guys who happened to be Christian, all 3 of these, and they prosecuted them merely because they were offensive. So Mr. Dufresne's not telling the truth when he says it's not just about hurting feelings. And you know what? I just want to back up for a second. The fact that they refuse to debate me shows they're not about free speech. They're not about a debate. They were hoping that you would bump me off the show and let them on. So I'm really proud of CTV for not letting them censor this show. But a few other things that Philippe said were simply not true. He said that the government doesn't fund the complainants. That's not true. Richard Warman, who's the #1 human rights complainant in Canada, gets his expenses paid by the Human Rights Commission, and he has a lawyer sent in, often Giacomo Vigna or Margaret Blight. These are the names of the lawyers. So I know these things personally, that they do pay for the lawyers, and they even pay Richard Warman's expenses as a complainant. I think Mr. Dufresne didn't want to debate me because he's worried that I'd call him on his factual errors.
Yeah, and let me make it clear that it was more a conversation that we were looking for, because we were talking about this debate, the need to balance off the right to be protected from hate and the right to free speech. And that is a debate that should be held publicly, and presumably debates are initiated by people who have a stake in the debate. Certainly the Canadian Human Rights Commission is one, you are another, because you've spent a lot of time looking at it. But let me ask you,
with 3 human rights complaints.
Well, yeah, let me ask you though, how should this debate proceed? Should this be they're looking now for a statutory definition of what constitutes hatred and contempt, something that apparently we've been lacking for even more in the last little while.
I read their whole report, and there's a terrifying thing at their end of the report that he didn't mention, and I know why it was buried at the bottom of the report, because it's very scary. Tom, in our criminal code, the police have the power to investigate people for hate propaganda, but right in our criminal code is the defense of truth and honest belief and religious conviction. So you can't, the police can't go after anyone in Canada who thinks they're telling the truth or is telling the truth. The Human Rights Commission has actually recommended that the government take the defense of truth out of the criminal code. So Philippe Dufresne and Jennifer Lynch actually want Canada to be a country where you can say something completely true, but the police can pick you up for it and sentence you to jail terms. So they're not only trying to keep their power of censorship, they're trying to expand the power of censorship of the police. First of all, that's not their business. Second of all, it shows they've learned nothing over the debates of the last year and a half. They're more for censorship than ever. My final point, Tom, is that this report that they did is a whitewash, because just last October, Professor Richard Moon of the University of Windsor wrote a report that was paid for by the Human Rights Commission. They paid $50,000 for it, and he recommended they get out of the censorship business. They threw that report in the garbage and spent $100,000 on this new report calling for more censorship. Look, I don't trust the Human Rights Commission with my freedoms. They clearly don't care about civil liberties, and they won't even participate in the debate. We got to shut them down, Tom.
Okay, well, unfortunately, I got to shut you down right now, Ezra, because we're out of time. But listen, I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming by, and it's too bad. Hopefully, someday we'll actually be able to have a conversation.